The last thing Daniel said to me before he quit management was, "Honestly, I'm just tired of the people part." He said it the way you say something you've rehearsed. Casual. Already decided. And I remember thinking, this man spent 2 years making sure everyone on his team was okay. He knew who stress ate during sprint reviews. He knew who had a standing lunch with their dad every Wednesday and protected it like it was sacred. He once sat on a bad deadline for 3 days so his best engineer wouldn't have to cancel a family trip. He wasn't tired of people. He was tired of what people had cost him. And I want to tell you exactly how that happened, because it's not a story about a bad team. It's a story about a mechanism, quiet, invisible, and almost guaranteed to activate whenever a genuinely warm person tries to lead. It starts the same way every time. A new leader comes in or gets promoted, and they're good at their job. But more than that, they actually care. They cover for people. They push back on unreasonable timelines. They learn how each person needs to receive feedback and then deliver it that way. They treat their team like people, not resources, and the team loves it. At first, here's the part nobody explains clearly enough. The human brain is not built to sustain gratitude, not because we're ungrateful. It's more mechanical than that. Psychologists call it hedonic adaptation. Positive experiences, repeated enough times, stop registering as positive. They become the new normal, the new floor. So the first time Daniel covered for that Wednesday lunch, Marcus thanked him, actually thanked him. But by the 6th time, there was no thank you. Not because Marcus was a bad person, because his brain had filed it under just how things work here. It wasn't a favour anymore. It was a term, an invisible clause in an invisible contract. And here's the brutal part. You can violate a contract you never knew you signed. Month 18. Product launch. Everything compresses. Daniel has to make fast calls. Who owns what? What gets dropped? What gets held? He pulls back on some of the informal buffer he'd been providing. Just temporarily. Triage, not policy. But the team doesn't experience it as triage. They experience it as something changed. Nobody says it out loud. No confrontation. No complaint. No honest conversation about what shifted. What happens instead is subtler and harder to fix. The warmth in the room drops by a few degrees, and it does it so gradually that Daniel can't locate the source. He starts noticing. Of course he does. He's observant. That's part of what made him good at this. So he does the thing that feels most natural. He doubles down. More check-ins. More flexibility. He buys the team lunch one Friday. No occasion. He kills another executive deadline to protect their weekend. And it makes it worse, because they're not feeling undervalued. They're feeling unled. There's a difference, and it's the kind of difference that's almost impossible to name when you're inside it. They needed someone to make calls, hold the line, say, this is how we do things. And what they kept getting was someone trying to make them comfortable. Comfort had become the substitute for clarity. Meanwhile, Daniel's losing his ability to give feedback. This is the part I think about most. There's an engineer on his team. Let's call her Jen, whose work has been slipping. Not dramatically, just enough that her peers have started quietly rooting around her on anything important. Daniel knows this. He's known it for months. But Jen is someone he genuinely likes. They've talked about her dog, her lease situation, the bad run she had with a previous manager. He knows too much, and knowing too much makes the feedback feel less like a professional conversation and more like surgery on a friend. So he holds it. Week after week, and the team watches. They see the holding. They conclude correctly, even if not consciously. The performance isn't really the metric here. Relationship is, which means the people actually delivering start to feel, quietly, cheated. Their investment starts drifting. This is what researchers call organizational silence. It's not peace. It's what happens when people calculate that speaking up costs more than staying quiet. The silence wasn't about fear. It was about the weight of a relationship. None of them wanted to damage, including Daniel himself. The problem had no language, so it had no resolution. He tried everything. He read books, He asked the questions in one-on-ones. He got the answers that well-trained employees give good managers. Everything's fine, just a lot going on. The conversations were warm and entirely empty. Houses staged for sale. By month 22, he'd started to close up. Not dramatically, just incrementally. He formalised things he'd been handling personally. He stopped covering for the Wednesday lunches. He started managing at a slight remove, a kind of professional glass between himself and the room. Some of his team said they respected him more consistent, more reliable. Some said something got lost. Both things were true. Here's what I think actually happened. Daniel wasn't too warm. That's the wrong lesson. The problem was that the warmth had no container. It flowed freely into everything. Schedules, feedback, accountability, expectations, with no shared language. For what it was and wasn't. No system, no floor, and when something flows without a container, it fills every available space, including spaces it shouldn't fill. What if the Wednesday lunch flexibility was something the team decided on together? Not Daniel's personal gift, not his to withdraw. When things tighten, nobody experiences it as betrayal because no one person gave it. What if feedback processes lived outside anyone's emotional register? Not cold clear, when the conversation comes from shared standards, rather than from the manager who knows too much. It stops feeling like a friend cutting you. It just feels like the job. The warmth doesn't disappear. It just has somewhere to stand. The most resilient teams aren't led by the warmest leaders. They're led by leaders who figured out how to protect their warmth, to make it durable, to build a structure strong enough that care can live inside it without collapsing. When the pressure changes, that's the skill nobody's teaching. And it's the one Daniel actually needed. He's an individual contributor now. He told me he likes it. I believe him. But I still think about that phrase. Tired of the people part. I think what he was actually tired of was the weight of holding everything personally. The unwritten contracts, the unspeakable complaints, the feedback he swallowed, until it became a new normal. None of that was inevitable. All of it was structural. All of it could have been shared. He poured everything he had into a cup that couldn't hold it. And then he decided he was done pouring. I don't blame him. I just wish someone had handed him a better cup.